So good morning, everyone. We are going to have an enlightening conversation with Secretary Cidre. Icon Summit brings together the game changers that are transforming the economic landscape of Puerto Rico. And like most of you, Manolo comes from the private sector and moved to the public sector to lead the transformation of Puerto Rico in recent years. So welcome, Manolo. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Carlos, for the invitation. It's a great honor to be here.
Excellent. I would like to start with your mission, your why. What drove you to move from the private sector as a very successful entrepreneur and lead economic development for Puerto Rico?
Well, in 2016, sorry, I ran for office. And I run for office as an independent candidate because I'm strong belief that Puerto Rico needs not only a leader, needs the continuity to move things forward. So with that in mind, I based my campaign in 2016 in specific actions and very focused on vision and mission of a country that needs to have very clear the future. Unfortunately, it's difficult to find that vision in the politicians, are very difficult because they have two strategies, to be elected and to be re-elected. So it's impossible to have an economic business plan every 4 years. We need to have a long-term economic plan. And when I decided to accept the position, since other things, to the governor of Pedro Pierluisi, that's what my vision, to move things forward and to get some legacy on the agency that allowed things move forward more than the 4 years that normally we have. So I accept the position and I put 5 conditions, which for me are very important, and put this into perspective. Number 1, I choose my team. Number 2, I am not going to participate in any political activities. 3rd, I report directly to the governor. 4th, I don't need any entourage or bodyguards or cars or whatever. And 5th, and not least, I am not to charge a penny for my job. So with that in mind, I built my team and start working with the reality of Puerto Rico, that how we can insert our strategy in a long term.
For sure, you're a mission-driven leader in Puerto Rico. And can you share with us some of the lessons from the private sector that became essential in driving transformative change for Puerto Rico in recent years?
Let me tell you, Carlos, sometimes in this position, I felt that the private sector is entering into the same execution of the government sometimes. And for me, maybe some of you know me, but I'm a baker man. I started my business as a bakery. So in a bakery, a small bakery. And obviously, for me, it's essential that the government and the private sector focus on results, put away everything that doesn't bring value to the table, follow our instinct and make the decisions, things constantly in an innovative way, try to make the different and pursue the relevance in everything you make. So again, that differential things between the private and the government sector and the government sometimes is difficult to identify each other on that. So again, the private sector needs to get empowerment, to get the responsibility, and not less, we need to change the model. The model is not working. And the economic model needs to be an empowered model, empowerment and entrepreneurship, not dependency. And when I said not dependency, are not food stamps. Sometimes I receive in my office companies that said, I need $3 million. And I said, we don't have those $3 million for you. And they said, well, if you don't give the $3 million, the business is not good. So I always said the same, but if you need $3 million from the government, the business is not good. So again, it's a matter of empowerment. And in the other side, we need to, in the social area, we need to create a society that is really empowered and a society that is really responsible for our future. And in the environmental side, we need sustainability. What that means in rice and beans? Means that every decision you make do not affect future generations. So again, it's a matter of discussion, it's a matter of political issues, and when we heard the candidates sharing their vision, I don't see any of them in the immediate scenario, so I'm concerned about that.
You're concerned about that? Okay. So as you reflect on the past years running DDEC, what policies you think have already created the most impact, and which policies you think are going to render the most impact in years to come?
Carlos, by the way, I'm 72 years old. Maybe I'm the oldest in this room. And in my generation, competitiveness means lower cost and low rent. Today, to compete, we need to have a workforce development structure. We need to have a capacity to create and retain the talent, the logistics and connectivity, the access to capital, accessible energy, agile pyramids, among others. And obviously, if I have to answer your question, I think we need to incorporate those things to Puerto Rico based on a phrase that I used to use, that we need to build and they will come. Obviously, it's very easy to attract. It's very easy to attract with lower, low salaries and low energy, but I think it's not in our future. I don't want to be recognized as a secretary that bring people to big economic development to Puerto Rico just because our salaries are lower than other part of the world. I don't want to compete with those guys. I want to compete in a country full of talent, with a workforce development very, very developed, and for that we have the money. For example, to retain and attract talent, we create 21st century tech force. We pretend to train 50,000 Puerto Ricans in the next 10 years in digital jobs. Second, we are the 7th jurisdiction that more money received for federal funds, $125 million, just to create apprenticeship program, on-the-job training and retraining. That will give us the opportunity to create a very well-developed workforce. Regarding connectivity, we are just launched the air cargo hub. As you know, the Federal Transport Agency gave Puerto Rico a waiver to have like a hub in Puerto Rico. And currently, based on our production capacity in the pharma industry, we are using Puerto Rico as a hub. And as we speak today, we have a flight every week to Brussels from Amerijet, and a weekly flight from here to Toronto from Canada Air, taking all the medical products that we produce in Puerto Rico and export to the world. So in the next 6 months, we are going to have flight from here to Bogota, Spain, from here to Madrid, Asia, avoiding to get our stuff from here to Phoenix or Miami to the world. We can fly directly to our destiny. So again, if we maximize our competitiveness and we maximize our workforce, if we create talent, now we can compete in the same level with other jurisdictions, and obviously Dominican Republic and Costa Rica will not be our competitors.
That's interesting. So the formula for economic growth is evolving. Like what sectors, come from manufacturing, what sectors would you double bet on? Like what sectors are you thinking are going to truly drive economic development?
Yes, the sectors, we have 7 sectors. We have a lot of opportunities, but we have 7 sectors, 3 with global opportunity and 4 for local entrepreneurs. The 3 with global opportunities, as everybody knows, is pharma. We have 60 years of experience in pharma. We actually have manufacturers. 42% of our GMP is pharma, but we are moving to the next step of pharma. We are moving to the knowledge economy, to the R&D, because obviously I don't think that those big pharma that they are not building a plant since 10 years ago are thinking to make another plant in Puerto Rico, another plant nearby us. But if we incorporate the R&D, maximizing and optimizing the molecular, obviously we're going to have a chance to attract scientific, to create intellectual property in Puerto Rico, and obviously we decide finally when we want to manufacture, but the intellectual property is going to stay in the island, very similar to the iPhone. The iPhone is made in China, maybe $20 per phone, but the technology is in California. So again, it's similar to that. The second sector, obviously, is our space. Our space, because first, we are, by the way, we have 4 universities that graduate 1,500 engineers every year. 1,500 engineers. Yeah. If we benchmark that number with many, many, many states and cities in the America, we are 1 or number 2. Mm-hmm. So again, that's a very good positioning to develop the aerospace sector in the area of design. Yep. Companies like Honeywell, Collins, Pratt & Whitney, Lockheed Martin, Rion, among others, are in Puerto Rico designing for the world, including the Honeywell aftermarket office that is located in Guaynabo, that using Puerto Rico under Law 20, export to the world $2.9 billion in product from Honeywell to the world. And in addition to that, Puerto Rico is part of U.S. So our jobs are American jobs, but more than that, to establish our space operation, you must be located in American territory. So Puerto Rico, graduating 1,500 engineers, knowing the system, and obviously the location that we have is the right ideal. 10 years ago, that sector had 700 jobs. Today we have 9,000 and growing. So, and the third sector is obviously informatics. It's not a secret. We have companies like Red Venture, like Abarca, like Capital Reach, like Infosys, like Carolon, like Optum, among others, employing currently 14,000 people, not the 725 salaries, $15 and $20 per hour, which is completely different to the call centers of the past. So informatics and technology, including cybersecurity, Puerto Rico is the right place to develop your business. From the local side, we have obviously the tourism and the visitor economy. Currently, we have 14,000 rooms, hotels, and 21,000 short rental. We are on the construction at 2,500 rooms, actually, Mont Largo, Roosevelt Roads, and this district as well. Mm-hmm. And in the future, we need to promote and focus our 60 law on that, not in buy and sell between hotels and hotels, new rooms, new hotels, and be specific oriented to the type of tourists that we want to attract. Mm-hmm. If low tourism, I don't have the space for that. Go to the Dominican Republic or go to Costa Rica.
We don't want over tourism.
Let's focus on value. Yeah. Let's focus on value. And obviously the food industry, where you, my dear friends, sitting today here, is a very good opportunity in Puerto Rico. We are investing in CITAI, which is the laboratory of food industry in Maya West, to promote the research and development of a new product, focus on manufacture locally, not only with the agricultural product that we have here. We can import agricultural product from our neighbors in the Caribbean and convert in how you say that, a producto terminado, and finished product in Puerto Rico and add value to the product. If we have that in the 80s, maybe today we're still having Canto Alegre and Picú open, because instead of compete with the whole chicken, we are competing with small pieces and add value to the product. So in Spanish I can pronounce better, but that's what I have here.
I wish we had an hour and a half on stage, because we could dive into all of those topics into more detail. You know, like we have been exporting talent from Puerto Rico, particularly in the aerospace industry, right? You have all of this great talent that is moving from Maya West, going to companies like SpaceX, and now when you talk about build it and they will come, we're seeing, you know, like aerospace engineers that graduated from Maya West coming back to the island because of the efforts that are happening both in the east part of the island and the west part of the island with aerospace and spaceport. So that is fascinating.
The
To see.
challenge, Carlos, is the living. We need housing.
Yeah.
And obviously, we just present a bill to the governor. He signed the bill. Now the bill is on the analysis of the fiscal board that gives a special incentive to those companies to develop affordable housing in the cascos urbanos of Puerto Rico.
Yep.
So, for example, Red Venture are in Santurce, Abarca are in Santurce as well. So if we can create a acceptable living in the area, Red Venture and Abarca, among other companies like Piloto 151 or Parallel or whatever, can attract more talent to the island. Because at the end, as one of my friends that have hotels in the world said, Puerto Rico is the last frontier. We are the last frontier. I don't have any doubts about that. So if we can bring talent, we have the capacity to bring the talent. $100,000 in Puerto Rico are more attractive than $125,000 in US, and you know that. So what we need is first quality of life, and obviously opportunities as we have, and not less the housing project that we are pretending to develop.
Absolutely, like build it and they will come, but they need places to live.
Yeah.
Like they need infrastructure, they need like energy grid that is working, all of those things. So. Talking of more of a historical outlook, like I consider you to be a macro visionary, someone that can look at the landscape of history and project into the future. So when you think of economic development, and the evolution of Puerto Rico's economic development, going from Operation Bootstraps, Section 936, and now, like Act 60, what do you see is the relevance of Act 60 in that macro view of Puerto Rico's economic development and transformation?
Well, Mr. Teodoro Moscoso on the bootstrap, he used an incentive, more oriented to taxes. And he can transform from agriculture to textile to chemical to pharma. The 936 obviously make the drawing that a lot of companies come to Puerto Rico and obviously based on taxes, but more than that, they had a lot of environmental pressure in America. So when they saw the opportunity to come to Puerto Rico, lower taxes, a lot of benefits, and no pressure on the environmental sides, they come. So currently, most of them are still with us in Puerto Rico, Abbey, Bristol, among others. What I see from Law 60 is more focus on economy based on knowledge. Obviously, as I said before this conversation with you, this is not a matter of industrial park. This is not a matter of factories. This is a matter of wealth. And for me, we are in the fourth revolution, on the industrial revolution, not based on manufacture, based on service, based on design, based on optimizing our resources and maximizing our resources, connectivity, logistics, and obviously, Law 60 is the right path to go through that in the beginning and in the long term as well. Example, the R&D. We have the best R&D incentive law in the world.
I can attest to that. Yes.
We monetize 50% of your expenses since day one. Since day one. Obviously, another thing that we use to attract companies is you can bring professionals of difficult recruitment. Bring to Puerto Rico, and they pay for the first $100,000 in salary, but the rest is zero taxes. The Law 20 today, the export law, you can use Puerto Rico as a hub. You don't have to have a warehouse or a factory or a manufacturer or whatever. You just sell from Puerto Rico and design from Puerto Rico to the world. Companies I used to mention Red Venture because Red Venture is
They're
very
here in the
close. It's
front
very
table.
close to my heart. But in addition to that, Honeywell and Optum and Carlon are companies that capitalize that specific law. And the Law 22, that is really criticized by those who do not understand economy, are very important in the creation of an economic ecosystem, not only based on knowledge and based on knowledge and trust, because you can offer all the benefits from the tax perspective to an investor. Go to Cuba and invest the same. They don't go to Cuba. They come here because we are American citizens, we are part of U.S., and in addition to that, we have a good benefit that promote people to think in Puerto Rico, first to move, first to capitalize the taxes. But as we see today, it's a lot of them who are investing in Puerto Rico in a lot of activities that help us to move this wheel on. That's why, and just to put this in perspective, our unemployment rate is the lowest in our history, 5.7, the lowest in our history. The labor participation, obviously, lower compared to US, but it's 45%. Normally, we have 32 or 33 or 34. Our manufacturing is in positive for the last 40 months. Our retail sales, with the exception of September 2022 of Fiona, are in good numbers. The occupancy in the tourist side, the poverty index is lower 1.7. So again, this is not behave or belong to manufacture or to, this belong to an ecosystem. And Law 22, Law 20, manufacture, design, and all the sectors are part of this.
Absolutely. Numbers do not lie. And the numbers that DDEC has released.
I don't make my money making just pan sobao.
It's incredible. You know, like back in California, where I was a few years ago, R&D tax credits were 5%. And that's fine. You know, like at the end of the year, you find that money and it's good. But it doesn't change, you know, like
It's not a game changer.
here, it's 50%.
It's not a game changer.
So it's the best R&D tax credit that you can find anywhere in the world. And also, you know, like when you look at the numbers of the tax revenue that Puerto Rico is generating just from Act 22, individuals, you know, like it's a true net positive for Puerto Rico, and then add all the other numbers, you know, that follow that, you know, like in terms of job creation, company creation, and of course, you know, like a lot of the companies that we have here in the room, in part benefit from that. So to land the plane, you know, like Act 60, is it a tactic? Is it a long-term strategy?
Both.
It's both.
It's both. It's both. Tactic, because obviously when we promote, we use it in a tactic way.
Yeah.
But for the long-term, continuity is very important in the investor. I remember people asking me if the tax incentive of Puerto Rico are for 5 years. And when I said it's for 15 years and you can renew for 15 years more, they feel safe. So it's actually a tactic, but it's a long-term strategy that obviously need to be extended, not only extended, understanding the Law 60.
Should be, yeah.
Because we need to link the Law 60 to add value. Add value is very important. It's the as I speak just later with you, it's the differential between one thing and another to add value for me.
Yeah. I love that duality. It's a tactic, it's a strategy. It's
Yeah.
not just one or the
No,
other.
no,
It's not,
it's both.
And we all need to understand, you know, like the numbers
Yeah.
and how it's actually having
Yeah.
an impact in Puerto Rico's economy now and into the future, you know, like build it and they will
Seguro.
come as part of that. So, you know, like I wanted to go into the role of private sector leaders. You come from the private sector. And I think that in previous conversations, you know, we all agree that enduring economic growth happens when entrepreneurs build businesses. You build businesses in Puerto Rico, a lot of people here. So what would you ask from this audience, you know, like in terms of how they contribute to the economic transformation that is happening in Puerto Rico? What do you like to see from the economic sector in supporting the efforts that DDEC are doing?
I'm sure that the group in this room and a lot of people like them are making a lot for the economic development of Puerto Rico. When I share with you the numbers, they are not my numbers. They are their numbers. So the government needs to understand that, to not only to be a facilitator, it's more than that. The private sector needs to know that the governor or the government understand and follow the vision of the private sector. Obviously, leadership is important. The role of the governor is very important as well when you talk about vision. But I remember in 1994, I was in D.C. with Tito Colorado and Chiri Basayo. We want to introduce Puerto Rico in the ALCA. Remember the ALCA in 1944 in Puebla, Mexico, and then the CAFTA. And when we bring the ALCA and the CAFTA to the island, all the legislators and senators in Puerto Rico, they don't know nothing about that. So that was an initiative promoted by the private sector. We incorporate Puerto Rico in the ALCA and the CAFTA discussion, and at the end, we was part of that discussion in 1994 and 1995. If the private sector do not take a plane and discuss this issue in D.C., for most of the legislators and senators, ALCA is a brillantina, which is not true.
Yeah, I encourage, like that
And
government-enabled private sector.
And obviously, my favorite words to describe our role at the private sector is precisely empowerment and responsibility. It's very dangerous. It's very dangerous to leave our future, our families, in the hands of 27 senators and 52 legislators. It's really difficult. It's really very, very difficult. And it's very dangerous as well.
That's very powerful. So, and thinking outside of Puerto Rico, like to our diaspora, right?
Yeah.
Like we know the power of our diaspora, but when you look at so many extremely successful business leaders from our diaspora that are, CMO at Hewlett Packard, Antonio Lucio, and you have Maria Martinez
He's Puerto
at
Rican.
Cisco,
Oh, yeah.
and the global CEO of Four Seasons, when you talk about hospitality, Puerto Rican from Macau, by the way. So, what could be the role of the diaspora in contributing to the transformation of Puerto Rico?
For me, are two areas. Those executive Puerto Ricans who work for those companies, like you mentioned, it's a lot of others that you and I know. They are helping us because they move things in their own companies to benefit Puerto Rico. I can use an example, the CEO of Amgen. By the way, as we speak today, we are competing in the biggest Amgen project in the last 10 years. And we win with Singapore. Now we are competing with Ireland, but we win for Singapore. And I don't have any doubts that guy helped us a lot. The same situation in Bristol, the same situation in HPE. From the company sides, I feel comfortable with that. From the other side, the 5.1 million Puerto Ricans who live in the diaspora, they can help us in the political pressure. Because 5.1 Puerto Ricans decide an election in U.S. So I think that the local government need to empower those diaspora in the political side to help us moving things that are in full benefit for us. For example, just an example, why we are using, I strongly believe in the Jones Act. I don't have any problem with the Jones Act because we export from, in my case, my company, my son's company, it's not mine anymore, but my son's company export 180 containers every year to U.S. From Puerto Rico, we have three days every week to export product from Puerto Rico to the world, to U.S. But obviously, I think that the raw material, you can make some exception in the Jones Act. So that specific pressure, the diaspora can help us a lot when they discuss their plans with their own legislators and all the person in their area. So again, from the company side, they are helping a lot.
Yeah.
From the citizen side, they can be our political representative in U.S.
And a lot of that requires more information,
Yeah,
like, and
of course,
not
of course.
misinformation. So, learning from our neighbors, like it's interesting, like I've heard you talk about the Dominican Republic, like, and how in the recent decades, like their economic prosperity has outpaced Puerto Rico. And I would love to hear, like some of those insights. I think that the audience would benefit tremendously from hearing that and how that could be actionable to Puerto Rico.
Well, definitely Dominican Republic and Costa Rica as well. They, and I don't have any doubts, they copied our model. I don't have any doubts about that. Low salary, low rent, and a government very committed to the economic development. In the case of Dominican Republic, it's amazing because Dominican Republic have 93,000 hotel rooms and 55,000 short-term rooms in Dominican Republic. And maybe with that amount of rooms, benchmark with Las Vegas or New York, you can think that those sector in Dominican Republic is more than 50%. It's only the 16% of the economy. And obviously, they have been diversified the economy in the best way possible. Here, as you and I know, 48% of our GNP is manufactured. So in that side, they have a very good opportunity. But again, companies like Edwards, like Abbey, like Bristol, like Medtronics, like Baxter, they use Dominican Republic and Costa Rica to produce products that require much labor. But they stay in Puerto Rico with the product that require more technology. So for the future, for me, it will be very difficult to compete with the low salaries. No way. By the way, just for your information, the entry level of a salary of an engineer in Costa Rica is $24,000. Here it's 80,000. So I remember 50 years ago, the entry level of an engineer in Puerto Rico was very, very cheap, benchmarked to America. And the reason, they emigrate. At the end, they leave us and they radicate in U.S. That specific situation is not going to happen in Dominican Republic because they control the visa. Yeah. We don't have any visa. We have the counter of JetBlue, which is quite different. So, and we have the counter of JetBlue that every Puerto Rican get a ticket and vote tomorrow with the President of the United States. Our numbers and our participation in the economy, our role in pharma, our role in aerospace is huge. And we cannot control our boundaries.
We're running over time, but I have just two more questions and want to go to the audience. So let's talk about the present, not politics, but the current priorities that you and your excellent team have. In the next months. What are you most focused on that needs to be achieved? For Puerto Rico.
Well, the initiative that we are taking care in the last 3 months of our administration is not different to the one we get the first day we were in office. We are focused on permits. We are focused on incentive. We are focused on promote and assist companies like want to expand or come to Puerto Rico. We are working very close with Invest Puerto Rico. Invest is our right arm that promote Puerto Rico in the island. We have been created a great team. Ella was an excellent leader and her team as well. So I don't think that our success belongs only to the DDEC, belongs to a team. And IPR, as I said, is part of that team. Yeah. And in addition to that, as I said, we have a lot of energy projects going forward. We have a lot of digital companies coming to Puerto Rico. We have local businesses that are expanding. So in that size, our plan is to finish, to complete all the paperwork. That when we leave the administration, everything is going to be set. Because for me, it's very important. And more important for me is the transition process. This is not going to be a transition when I'm going to say what I have done. This is a transition when I'm going to say what we need to do in the future to give the continuity that the Puerto Rico needs to keep the ball in the high level. So again, it's not a matter of ending. It's a matter of continuity, and we are going to do our best to put that continuity on the right side.
So Manolo, in that line of thought, what advice do you have for the future leaders of economic development in Puerto Rico?
Mira, Carlos, I start as a business person in 1975, and I know how to run without gas. I know what is that. And I start from scratch. I create a small company. I develop the company. I do it by myself. As I explain you later, we don't have the capital that we have now. And currently, my company have 2 operations, one in Tampa and one in Puerto Rico, serve 49 of the 50 states in the nation, produce 50 million pounds of bread, and is the leader of a Latino brand in America. But I explain you that because the person who occupied this chair, it's impossible to come to this chair to learn. It's not only a matter to have the vision. You need to create your team and give your team the space to create, the space to bring to the agency new techniques, new things. And I'm very proud of that team. And obviously, the other things is it's very difficult to learn this position when I arrived to administration in 2021. Deep in my heart, I get sick because it's so complicated. It's so complicated, the government. It's a rule for everything, no matter if you want to go to the bathroom. So at the end, experience is of the essence. It's very, very, very important. And you cannot run an agency without knowing how to make things from nothing, because we are not a rich country. We are not a rich country. You know how many cars we have in DDEC when I arrived in 2021? 14 cars. For what? My question, for what? Huh? It's incredible. And when you see the entourage behind all the politicians and all the officials of the government, you say, Jesus Christ. We have to realize, currently, we are not a rich country. We want to be a rich country. But obviously, as I said, no matter what was your ideologies, statehood or independent or Commonwealth or whatever, first of all, we have to be rich. And now we have the best opportunity to be rich because we don't need to build any building to be rich. We need to build talent. And we have the talent because the Puerto Ricans are the most talented person I never know in my life.
That's a very optimistic view, and like I share it with you. So I read an interview that you did a while back where you talk about the tenure of the leader of economic development should be 6 years and not like the 4 years that we have in political cycles. If the incoming governor were to ask you, keep your team in place, stay here a few more years, would you consider that?
Too late for tears.
I'm sorry?
Too late for tears.
Okay, too late for
Obviously, I said, but listen, Carlos, just a joke when I said too late for tears. I'm 72 years old. I left 8 grandsons, my wife, my friends, my golf, my life for 4 years. For 4 years. I dedicated as the way I always do things. This is not the time of Manolo. This is the time of a new leadership that have everything set to move the agency and the economic development to the next level. It's not a matter to put the upper office out of the DDEC or to close the Junta de Planificación. It's a matter of, okay, this is my principle, let's still develop those principles. Yeah. Because at the end, that's the Costa Rica government make. They have 7 principles. No matter who is the president of Costa Rica, all of them need to respect all those 7 principles. Energy, education, as one of them. Yeah. And the only commitment that they have with those principles is to grow those principles. And that's why I pretend that the next to come maybe is better than me. Why not? So of course, I'm a baker man. Yeah. Huh? So again, let's get those principles and develop those principles.
That's excellent. Do we have time to open up for a few questions from the audience? You have a few more minutes?
No tengo problema.
Any questions? I cannot hardly see, you know, like.
Carlos?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you so much. My name is Juan Carlos Morales. I'm a local entrepreneur focused on the hospitality sector. I'm very curious on, and I had to write this down because I wanted to try to not sound too political, but you mentioned that the distinction between developing new hospitality projects versus trading existing ones. Many investors and local entrepreneurs are eager to enter the industry, but are hesitant to do so due to the slow process for obtaining construction permits, especially and tax decrees, as well as the perceived disconnect between the government incentives and the actual support. In your view, who has the potential to lead and innovate solutions to expedite this process? And what would you advise local entrepreneurs who want to develop new projects but feel uncertain and given the challenges? And then now I'm gonna go off script and add to that. I have a new project that we just opened up 6 months ago. The name is Patio Elba. It's in Santurce. We took an abandoned home in one of those cascos urbanos, and we turned it into this beautiful hotel. We created over 100 jobs during the construction. Unfortunately, we had, in order to get this project developed, we had to go through the permitting process of calling it an apartment hotel or a apartment building so that we can get an expedite process. So we basically had to hack the system in order for us to be able to get the construction permit. Then we built it, and then we changed the permit to a hotel. It's a shame that we had to go through this process, and I think this is something that we had to do that. In another project that I have in Punta Las Marias, I went through the process of actually developing a hotel because I thought that's what the government wants me to do. And I've been developing that project for 5 years and getting a lot of pushback from the community. So on one side, I see the government telling me, hey, we want more rooms. You're saying we want more new projects. I want to build it. I have lost over $10 million of investor money because every time I go and try to develop a project, I don't feel hope that I'm going to get a tax decree fast enough. So I guess my question is, who is going to fix this problem? Because on one side, you're incentivizing hotel development, but on the other side, you're taking guys like me that are having to navigate these. And I don't have a last name. You know, I'm a nobody here. I'm not one of those famous families. And I want to have hope. So I guess my question is, what would you suggest me to do in this?
Well,
good luck.
You're asking for advice.
Okay, let's going to start very easy. My email, manuel.cidre@ddec.pr.gov. Send me all your pending permits. All your pending permits, send them to me. My commitment with you today, I'm going to give you a response later this afternoon. And I'm going to copy Carlos Garcia to share with the others. Because again, if we have a sector that we are promoting the expedite of the permits, is the tourist sector. So I really don't know your project as well, but my commitment today with you, I'm going to revise today, I'm going to give you a response this afternoon.
What a great leader. We have time for one more question. Go ahead.
I can just speak. So I'm here under Act 60. I've been here for 3 years. And the one comment I'd like to share with you, it sounds like you're going to be leaving soon, maybe you can help now, is the lack of transparency on all the processes that relate to Act 60. I just now, after 3 years, got a draft of my decree. I'm interested in the R&D program. Can't get any information, no one to speak to. And I understand that it takes a year after the fact to get it approved. That doesn't quite help you with your cash flow to fund the R&D. 2 of many examples. I'd love help too, and I'd appreciate any direction.
Can I take this one?
See, first with me is Carlos Fontan. He's the director of the incentive office. If you give him your case, as I said to the other person, we're going to inform today the status of your decree.
I know, I appreciate it. I think I'm towards the end. I'll happily speak to him. I think I'm towards the end of the process, but it's 3 years after the fact, which is a very long time.
I understand.
The transparency of that process is a suggestion. Help with understanding the programs like the R&D, getting information, being able to speak to someone, and not have to hire a consultant or attorney because the whole thing is so opaque is a big issue and prevents me from making more investment here.
What type of R&D is your decree? You remember? You can send me?
No, my decree is export of services. I have a new business that I'm interested in starting that has to do with battery technology, energy technology, which is my core business.
It's just to have the information. You have an R&D decree solicitude so far?
No, my decree is only for export of services.
So you are not.
I have to start that process again, which is why I'm more concerned about the transparency of that process. But I'm just looking for information, and there's nowhere.
No. I understand, but I want to understand your situation
Sure.
to help you on that. So if you want, when I finish this, we can sit with Carlos and see how we can help you on that.
Oh, great, I appreciate
Good
that.
for you?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Manolo, you're an icon. Thank you for joining us at Icon Summit, and look forward to seeing the continued contributions that you.
And it's important. I was born in Cuba. For all of you, I was not born in Puerto Rico. I was born in Cuba. And I remember that Mr. Fidel Castro invited Joe Louis to Havana in 1962. I was a real young guy. And in the national TV, they start asking Joe Louis about his racial problems in U.S. And I remember he said, "It's true, Mr. Louis, that the Negroes in states have a lot of problems, pam, 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 pam." And I remember what Joe Louis answered. He said, "Mr. Castro, we have our problems in U.S. with the racism. But you know, Mr. Castro, those are our problems. We are going to fix it." And obviously, it's the same thing I want to say to each of you. I recognize we have really concern and struggling in permits. Maybe transparency is one of them. Agile, technology. But my commitment and the commitment of my successor is to work very hard on that, to make Puerto Rico not only the place to live, the place to make business, the place to develop, the place to retire. Thank you for your audience.
Big round of applause. Thank you.